All right. Oh, losing my voice. Let me smack down some Unity terrain theory on you guys. So at this point, you went up to here. You went one of two tracks. Either you created your own lidar data through the lidar to terrain free process, or you got Brace or somebody else to do your lidar, and you've imported it into Unity. And either case, we should be at the same spot now. We should have an inner terrain, and optionally, we should have an outer terrain. The outer terrain is not necessarily. It's really for just the landscape look outside of your course. But I think it's important for us to take a look at those so you understand what's happening. Okay, so let's open up Unity. And you can see here I have my inner train and I have my outer train. If I highlight them, you can see they're not showing up right now. The reason being is that if I highlight it and I go up here to the inspector, it is disabled. All right, we're going to get a lot more into Unity, but no, right now, if you want to disable anything in Unity, you can highlight it, you go up to its inspector panel, and you can click and disable it right here. So let me turn on this, and you can follow my mouse. You can see what I'm doing here because I got this handy dandy mouse tracker. And this is our inner terrain, and I have it undressed right now. It's just showing like a white background because I don't have a texture on top of it. But you can see barely here. And if I come up here and I do wireframe instead, it might give you a better idea of what this terrain looks like for this course. So this course, down here is the first 9 holes, and the last 9 holes are kind of built into the side of this mountain. So you can get an idea of what that looks like. And let me turn wireframe, go back into shaded wireframe. There we go. This gives you an idea. You can see there's like some steps going up here, but this is our terrain, raw terrain. It's got nothing on top of it at this point. Um, on top of that, I can enable our outer. And you can see when I do that, how things go out further. And it's really just kind of our landscape, our far view landscape that gets added at that point. So a couple things to understand here is that our inner contains our golf course, our outer just contains our landscaping. Um, let's talk about a little bit of clashing here. So if I go into our outer, well, let's just talk about overlays. Very simple. Let me go in here. I'm going to hit edit textures, add texture, and I'm going to get this window that pops up, and I'm going to drag this light blue texture on here, and I'm going to make it size. That should be fine. Add that, and you can see it puts this light blue texture on the outer terrain, so it gives you an idea of where the outer terrain is and where it stops with the inner terrain. Um, and you can see that this is lowered -25 up here, and it's shifted by these. You should have done this as part of the process, okay? But if it's, go back to inner, and you can see my inner as at 0. So let's go back to outer. Let's change this from -25 to 0. And you can see what happens is now my outer is covering my inner because that blue is on top of my inner. So anytime you have layers like this, you always have to be aware of how they conflict. So let me just lower this a little bit to -20. And you can see when I do that, I start to get these white spots. That is our inner beginning to poke up through. And if I just lower that a little bit more, you can see now my inner is completely above my outer. And if I just fuddle with this a little bit, I can get different degrees of clashing. And let's see here, if I go 15, looks like 20 is probably the best way to show some, yeah, I get some clashing there. But I do know that at -25, my outer is completely underneath my inner at this point. And if you go down to these edges here, you'll see that the outer is actually underneath, and I can actually fly down in between these, all right? So if I go down, that's not a big deal because when you're standing here looking out, you don't even see that drop, okay? Now, we just have raw terrains here. Let's add some textures to that. So on my inner, let me go to edit texture, add texture. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Google inner overlay, lay it up there, and you've already done this. I'm going to put my terrain size on it, For my course, it's 1100. Yours is probably different. I'm going to add that, and voila, I now have a picture that is laid on top, and now you get a much better idea of what my golf course looks like. All right, here are a couple. Here's the first 9 holes down here. And then if I go up here, you can start to see some of the really cool terrain, which is the side of this mountain up here. And you can see it gets you a better idea of what happens. It's kind of like these plateaus. Then, all right, I can do the same thing to my outer. So I go back over here to outer. Texture, let me edit texture. I'm going to remove that texture. I'm going to add a texture back in. I'm going to do my Google outer, drop it on there, change the size to 5,000, which is the size of my outer terrain. Hit add, and now you can see, well, you can't even see the difference. It's like seamless, right? And let me just get rid of that wireframe and just do shaded. And now you get a good idea. So right now we've got really 4 components. We've got our inner terrain, which our golf course sits on. We've got our outer terrain, which is just our landscaping. And then we got 2 overlays that sit on top of them that give us an idea of what lies underneath. All right, on to the next lesson.